Hi guys, it's Katie here from Creativa, and today I would like to start making a new mini album using some new SVG files that I've designed, and they're called Broderie. And I think I might just start getting into it, and I'll try and tell you about the SVG files as we go along. It's been ages since I've recorded, so I hope that you bear with me. I've tried to get organised beforehand, but you just never know what you might have forgotten, so let's just see how we go. So to start with, I've created this little book, and in this book I've got copies of photos, pictures of the files themselves, so that I can show you the files, and then if you want to purchase them yourself, you can easily tell what they are. So I should just mention the SVG files are for cutting machines like Cricuts or Silhouettes or Brothers Scan and Cuts. I myself use a Cricut, and so any tips or tricks that I can give you will be in relation to a Cricut. But if you're pretty handy with your Silhouette or your Brothers Scan and Cut, then I think that you will know how to transfer those tips and tricks to your own cutting machine and the software that it uses. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is make the cover and also insert the pages. So let me show you what we need to cut out for today. So the files themselves, each of the elements are in this bluey green colour, and then the mats that go with them are in the pink, and I've labelled each one with a number, a letter and a number reference, just to make it easier for me to tell you what they are. And if you do purchase them through my Etsy store, you will get a PDF that also has these pictures in here so that you can use it as a handy reference guide. So to start with, I have cut out two of the covers, which is A1, and one of the spine, which is A2, and I've cut those out in chipboard, which are just here for me to show you. So these are the front and back covers. I've got something stuck to that, and the spine that I've cut out in chipboard, so they're all ready to go. And I haven't cut out the covers yet. I'm going to do the covers, the mats I should say. I'm going to do the mats later. Then I have also cut out the bindings. So here I've cut out one of B1 and one of B2. And again, I haven't cut out the mats for the binding as yet. It's probably something that I will do towards the end when I'm embellishing. So one of these and one of these, which I have cut out of cardstock, which is here, and I have already sort of inked around these little cut lines a little bit as best I could. And this is the other part here. So this is B1 and this is B2. And so I've already cut those out of cardstock, and I am using Recollection 65-pound cardstock, which is 176 GSM, and I'm using that in this colour cream. So that's what the cardstock that I'm using. So that's the binding. The binding, sorry. And then I've cut out 12 of these base pages, so 12 of C1, and they are already cut, and I have those here. We'll look at those later, but I've cut out 12 of those because we're going to back them together and make them into pocket sleeve pages. So let's start with the cover, and I'm just going to bring out my plastic mat so I don't get gooey glue everywhere. So this plastic mat is just a, what is it? It's a shelf protector that I purchased from Bunnings. I'm in Australia, so our local hardware stores are mainly just about all Bunnings hardware stores. And I've just cut it in half, and then I've put some tape around the edges just so to stop it from curling up. And I have my two covers and my spine, and today I'm going to cover it with wallpaper. So I've got this piece of wallpaper here. It's really old wallpaper. I bought this from a yard sale, a garage sale. I bought a whole big box full of really old-fashioned wallpaper. But I love wallpaper because it's really sturdy, but it's also really flexible. So what I've done is I've already cut out a piece to the right size, and I have drawn a 1-inch border around the edge just to help me line it up, and I'm just going to stick it on there roughly. So I'm going to use this Tiger Grip glue, which is a Helmar's glue. I'm using it because I have it. I'm not sure that I have a preference for it particularly. I guess we'll soon find out. But otherwise, in the past, I've used PVA glue. You could use any kind of glue that you prefer. I think it's important to just use whatever it is you prefer. So on my spine piece, I'm just going to put some glue down. And I'm hoping that this is going to be nice glue to work with. We'll find out together. Alright, so then I can just pop this down roughly in the middle. I probably should have started with an edge piece, but you know, living on the edge here. I'm going to just pop that down, squash it down as much as I can. And then I'm going to flip it over and give it a really good rub. And this is why I put a plastic protector down on my workspace. And I hope it's not too glary, but I get glue everywhere. I'm a gluey, messy crafter. So that's our spine, and then we can put down our 2 colour pieces. I must have cut them out of different kinds of cardstock, chipboard, but they're the same thickness, so it'll be fine. So we'll do the same thing again, just glue it all together. And stick this one down in the same way, and I'm just going to leave a little gap between this piece and the spine so that it will hopefully bend well. Stick that one down. And I might as well do this one at the same time. It looks like it's sticking pretty good. So I'll tell you about my SVG files that I have designed. They're called Broderie. So some of them look very much like lace, like broderie lace, and so broderie is a French term, I believe, for lace. And then some of them are not, but that's where I got the inspiration for calling them broderie. Stick that one down. So half the pieces are lace looking, and then there's the same kind of pieces or elements that are not lacy. So whilst you can make really pretty, girly, lacy mini albums, you can also just use the plain pieces and do a more plain version if you don't want it to look too lacy and girly. So that seems to have stuck down really nicely. I'll make sure that's stuck on really firmly. And then I'm just going to turn the edges, but first of all I do need to cut off these edge pieces. Now I know that there are lots of tips and tricks and tools on how to do it, but my way is just to trim it off, leaving a little bit on the edge, and I may well have to come back and trim that little extra bit off, but that's okay. I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. So I've actually probably left a bit much there, so I'll just give that another trim. And another trim here. Okay, we'll put those scraps to the side. Right, and then I'm just going to give it a little bend here so that that bends up a little bit. And the same on each of the sides so that it folds nicely. On this side as well. I hope I can get the whole as much of it as I can in view. Then I'm thinking I might put some double-sided tape along this edge. Sure, maybe along this edge. Why not? I really want to make sure that it sticks down nicely. So along the long edges here, I am going to put some double-sided tape. I'm not too fussed about it. I just want it to not sort of buckle up again later on. So it's not perfect, but you won't see it because it will be covered up. And then I'll just trim these edges so they don't stick to everything. There we go. And I'll find my bone folder and just make sure that that sticks down, because otherwise it's really hard to get the backing off the tape. And I'm going to do the same all the way around. So while I do that, I can tell you a bit more about the SVG files. So I call them versatile files because each of the pieces, or a lot of the pieces, have got extra tabs on them, and that means that you can do more than just one thing with that piece. So for instance, you could use a pocket and make it into a flip just by cutting off a couple of the tabs. You could, and well, I guess that's essentially why they're versatile. But they're also versatile because if you are pretty handy with your cutting machine software, then you can also upsize them and make them larger. So make the whole album larger. So this album as it comes, when you download it and then upload it to your cutting machine, will make an album this size, which is essentially I think it's about 7 inches square, but the way I made it was that you could cut the mats for the base pages, which are the biggest mats, using a 6x6 pad. So I guess I sort of call it a 6x6 album, although strictly it's not. In fact, if I just got out my ruler in a second here, I could tell you. Excuse me. The cover itself is, 7 inches by 7 inches, but the inside pages are 6 inches by 6 inches. Or at least the mats for the base pages are 6 inches by 6 inches. So that means that you could use any of your 6-inch paper packs to make this album. But as I say, if you're clever with your cutting machine, you can upsize all of the files and make whatever size album you like. And I do intend on showing you some tips and tricks on how you can do that and including them on my channel, so you can do the same thing as well. Okay, so now there's so many people who have done videos on covering your mini album. This is just how I do it, and you're quite welcome to do it any way that you would prefer to do it. Right, so I'm going to pull this tape off here, and then I'm going to put some glue on here as well in this gap, and I really want to make sure it goes along this edge here because I want to make sure that that sticks nice and firmly. And then I'm just going to put some glue down here as well. And then I'm just going to fold it up, making sure it's really nice and tight to that edge. Pull it over and stick it down. And I'm just going to turn it. Sorry, I know it probably looks weird to you, but I can only do it because I'm right-handed like this. And I'm going to have some glue that comes out. I'll just wipe it off. And I'll pull that up nice and tight and squish it down. Pull it be some glue that comes out there. Not so much. Alright, and then I'm just going to use my bone and... Sorry about the noise. This is probably a better way to do it. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it up on its side and run my bone folder along here, and it just gives it a nice, I don't know if you can see that, but a really nice square finish on that edge, which I think looks better than this sort of curved over section. Excuse me, and so I'm just going to do that along there. And then I'm just going to do exactly the same all the way around. Right. So, now have I told you everything? I think I've pretty much told you everything. And I'm going to do a series of videos making this album and showing you sort of how we can use each of the elements to make a mini album. And what's really fabulous about the SVG pieces is that you don't have to do any of the measuring, you don't have to do any of the cutting, and you don't need to do any of the scoring. It's already been done. I've already worked out the exact dimensions of everything for you. So then you can just have fun creating and working out different ways that you can use each of the different elements to make whatever you like. So I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can use those pieces, but at the same time there's an infinite amount of possibilities that you could do, or you could use each of the pieces to make all sorts of different things, and it depends how fancy you want your album to be, or maybe if you just want to make it a little bit more simple. So I've worked out a bunch of different ways that I want to use the pieces that I would like to show you, and so just about every page in this album is different, but I don't suggest that every page in an album has to be different. I think an album can be just as nice if it's if all the pages are the same. It's, you know, it's completely up to you how you'd like to make it. Right, so I've got these little edge pieces here that are poking over a little bit, so I'm just going to take my scissors. I don't even know if I really need to do it, but I'm just going to trim that off. I'm going to try to. Just trim that little tiny triangle piece off. And the same here. And get that out of the way. And then hopefully when it bends over, we won't have any, whoops, dropped my glue. We won't have any bulging out bits of the wallpaper. So you don't have to use wallpaper. I just do because I like it. I like the texture and the fact that it's flexible and different, but you could equally use cardstock, definitely a thinner cardstock, and you can use, I have successfully wrapped albums with this 65 pound or 176 GSM cardstock. You could just use paper. Wrapping paper is a great one because it's you know, nice and wide and long, so you don't need to join pieces together. I've got a little bit that's poking out there, which I'll just snip off with my scissors and no one will know. There we go. And then this last page here, and that one looks okay, and that one's not bad either, so let's go for it. So I've forgotten how weird it is when you record and you're talking to yourself. I can't get that bit up. But it's definitely strange. Hopefully I'll get back into the swing of it and I won't bore you guys too much with my dribble, my chit chat. Here's the last bit of our cover, ready to go. Fold that over nice and tight. Just wipe excess bit of glue off. Make sure that's nice and firm stuck down. A bit of glue here as well. Oop, and on the mat. Okay, so now I have a little funny corner here, so I'm just going to get that little trim. I don't think that anyone would be any the wiser. I don't think that that's what I've done. Just trim that off. Especially because I'm using this wallpaper, which is, you know, busier than just plain cardstock. Okay, so that's it, and we've got this gap in between here, which makes it nice and easy to fold, like so. So there's the album spine, that's the spine and the covers. So there's our cover. So now we can put our base pages in. So we'll just pop that aside for a moment, and I'll get out those base pages. So we're having 6 base pages, which means that I needed 12 of these pieces here, which are C1. So I've cut out 12 of the C1 base pages, and then I have already folded on the score line. So of course my Cricut has done the scoring for me, so I've just folded up all the way around on those score lines, and I have inked it up, and I have used Tim Holtz distressing in Vintage Photo. So then, just to save a bit of time, I've already put some double-sided tape on these flaps here, on all of them, so you can see all of them have the double-sided tape on these side ones here. And then on half of them, so I've cut 12, so but on half of them, so 6 of them, I have marked, and that's not one of them, that's line 1. I have marked this flap here to be cut off. So 6 of them I'm going to keep the flap, this little flap on, and 6 of them I'm going to cut this flap off. The reason why I'm going to cut this little flap or tab off is because we're going to insert it into the binding, and it will, if we have both of them, it will make it too bulky and the pages won't turn very well. But if we cut this one off, one of them, for each of the pages, then we will reduce the bulk a little bit. So now what we're going to do is, as I say, we're going to cut the tabs off of half of these. Now I have already made some of these pages, so I'll just quickly show you what they look like when they're done. So when they're done, we have a pocket page, and that's our base, and I've already put some double-sided tape on here so that we can insert it into the binding and stick it down. So that will be what our base page looks like when we're done. So I've already made 4 of them just to save a bit of time. So there's 4 of those pages just there. And I thought we'd make 2 together so that hopefully you will understand how or hopefully I can explain it well enough so that you understand. Right, so on 2 of these I'm going to cut, because we're doing 2 pages, so on 2 of these I'm going to cut these tabs off. So I'm just going to get out my cutting tool, slicey dicey tool, whatever it is, and I'm going to turn it over so I can see that score line here. It's a little bit easier to see than my inked edge. So I'm just going to cut that off, 1 for each page. So trim that one down, and that's waste. This is the only cutting that I have to do. And same with this one. Just going to trim that one off. Right. So for each page, we can pop that to the side now. That's it, that's cutting done. For each page, I'm going to need one of these where we've just cut the tab off, and then one of these that has the tab on still. And what we will do is join these two together and it will become one page. So I'm going to use double-sided tape, but I'm also going to use a bit of glue stick. It just helps to give you a little bit of wiggle room before you stick it down. So I'll just take the lid off of that. And what I am going to do is have one page like this, and the tab's going to fold over like that, and that's where we have our double-sided tape. And this one, well, I'm just going to flip over, and that one is going to have the tab here, so that those two tabs are going to join together like so and make us a page. So I hope that that makes sense. So let's do that. And I'm going to do it again just to make sure that I've tried to explain it as best I can. So I'm just taking the backing of the tape and then I'm putting a bit of glue down. And then I'm going to make sure that this piece here and this piece here are going to line up on at the top there. And then I'm just going to line up this corner. Oh, I've got the shakes now. I'm recording. Line up that corner and that corner. Got a little bit of wiggle room there. And press it down. And then I'm going to do the same with this one, which will then make a pocket for us. So I'm going to take the tape off here. And put a bit of glue on that tab. And then, excuse me while I spin it around, but I'm going to line up this little corner here with this and this little corner here. And squash that down. And then we have a little pocket. I'm just going to use my bone folder and give it a good press down, make sure that it's nice and snug. Perfect. And then we're just going to, on one of these, I've already put some double-sided tape on this one here. All I'm going to do is press this one down to this one, and it just gives it a bit more stability because the pages will be turned, and makes a nice and neat sort of finish. So I'm just going to pull that off and then press it down. Now, if I haven't lined that up very well, I can just come along and slice off that last little top bit there, or alternatively I could just ink it and then you wouldn't know either way. So I'll just trim that off because, you know, my lining up skills aren't great. So there's another page, so I can put that one aside. So now I have 5 pages, and let's just do it one more time so that you can see what I've done. So this piece is the one where we've cut the tab off, and this piece still has the tab on it that we're going to insert into our binding. So we need to turn each of them over and line them up so that these two pieces are at the same place, whether at the top, at the bottom, at the side, doesn't matter while we're putting it together. And then those tabs are going to fold in and join onto the other side of the page like that. So I'll take the tape backing off here. I'll try. There we go. And put a bit of glue stick down so I've got a bit of wiggle time to make sure that I've lined it up. And make sure that this piece and this piece are on the same side. And then I'm going to line up this corner here with this corner down here and press it down. So then we have a little one like that. And then I'm going to flip it around again. I hope I'm not making you feel queasy with all my moving things around. And I'm going to pull this backing off here, put a bit of glue on, and then again line this page up, this corner up with this corner, and this corner up with this corner. Shuffle it into place, lay it flat and press it down. Give it a good press with my bone folder, and then my last piece here, gluey bits everywhere. I'm just going to pull this back, and I've already put some tape on there, so I can just pull that off. I'm really bad at this. There we go. And then just press that down. So hopefully that has made some sense to you. And then I'm just going to trim this little piece here because I'm just off by a millimetre with my lining up, and it will bug me if I don't cut that off. So then we have 6 pages. Now we can insert them into the binding. So I have made this binding a bit different for this album, and the reason I've done that is because if I were to use perhaps the hidden hinge binding system, if you wanted to expand your pieces to make a bigger album, then you might not have a long enough piece of paper to cut out the hidden hinge system because it credenzas up, so you need actually quite a long piece. And of course, the bigger the album you make, the bigger the piece is going to be. So I have made the binding in this way, and it's a bit different, so hopefully I can explain it and it will make sense. So on some of these, I haven't done it on all of them, but on the 4 that I've already made, I have put some double-sided tape on that flap that we left. So remember, we cut one off, one piece, but we left the other one. So I put some tape on there, and what we're going to do is slide our piece, our page into each of these slits and line it up, and then press it down. And when we're happy with it, we can press it down, and then that will be holding our page into place. So that's my plan. Right, so let's do that. So again, I'm going to use the glue stick to give me a little bit of wiggle room, and my little Cricut tool, and I'm just going to pull this off. I'm going to try and pull this off. Everybody makes this look so easy, but I'm not so good at it. Alright, and then I'll just bring it over here and put a bit of glue on there. Right, so now I'm actually going to lift this up and slide my page in like that. And once I'm happy with where it's sitting, like that, I'm just going to push it down. Done. So then we can pull that page or bend over like this and push down like that. So I'm going to do that for every single one of these pages, but I'm going to come back and show you the last one because I want to do the last one a little bit differently. So I will do that again for these remaining pages, and then I'll be back shortly. Okay. Okay guys, so I am back, and I have put in 4 of the pages into the binding, and I thought I'd just show you a couple, or the last 2 pages, just to make sure that I had explained it clearly, because I'm not sure how clearly I've explained it. So this second last page I'm going to insert into here. So I've already put some tape on this tab, which I'm going to peel off and use a bit of the glue stick just to give me a little bit of time to get it off. There we go. And a bit of glue stick, which I'm just going to run down there, not too much. And then I'm just going to slide that little tab into this next slot there and line it up with my score line, and also make sure that the pages are lined up at the top and the bottom. And then when I'm happy with that, I'm just going to stick it down. There we go. So that's 5 pages in, and if we flip it over onto the back, you should be able to see that all the tabs are facing the same way. But for this very last one, I'm actually going to, instead of inserting it this way so that the tab is pointing that way like all the other ones, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to insert it this way so that that tab is going in the opposite direction. And the reason I want to do that is I don't want this tab to hang over too much and possibly interfere with where our fold line is here on the spine. So just to make sure that that doesn't happen, I'm going to insert it the opposite way. So it's exactly the same, but the tab will fold over in a different direction. And so I can just get that sticky backing off. And I'm going to put a bit of glue on there again. So this is actually going to go on top of the tab from this page, this tab here, but you really can't tell when it's all been put together that that's how it's working. So this time I'm sliding it in from this angle and lining it up with the score line. And when I'm happy with its placement, I'm just going to press it down. Maybe come out a little bit there. And I'm just going to make sure that I haven't got any glue on there. So now all 6 of our pages are in, and if we flip it over, you might be able to see that this tab is sitting on top of this tab, but you really won't be able to tell once it's in the page, in the book, and we've attached it to the cover. You won't be able to tell that. Okay, so then I'm going to, I might flip these pages so we have 3 on either side. That one and that one. And I'm going to turn it over. Actually, it might be just better if I have them like that. So I've got, so it's laying quite flat there. And then I have this other bit of the binding, and on this side I've attached tape all the way along it. So this is, if we have a look at the SVG files, this is this piece here, and we're going to stick that on the back. So what I've done is I've just decided where I'm going to place it on the back here like this. And I want to make sure that it's covering up all of those slits and making sure that it's pretty much centered between, or the slits are centered between this piece of binding, and then I laid it down on there, and then I just drew a line down there just to help me with placement, because you know, once you take off the tape and you try to place it, sometimes it can be a bit tricky. So something's stuck on there. You won't see it, but it was just driving me a bit crazy. So I'm just going to pull this backing off here. And I prefer to use tape in this instance because we have those slits, and I don't want I wouldn't want any liquid glue to ooze out between any of those slits and get onto our pages. So tape is the go here. And a good strong one if you've got it. And I'm also going to use a bit of glue stick again. Oops. Stuck on there. There we go. Right, and then I'm just going to put a bit of glue on here. Right. So now I'm just going to line it up between those 2 lines that I've made, and making sure that it lines up with the top and the bottom as well. And this will get us a bit of extra reinforcement. So hopefully my head doesn't end up in the excuse me. just going to lay that down on there. And I'm happy with that. I'm just going to give it a really good press down. So now that has covered up all of those slits. So then if we flip it over, I'm just going to push it down between each of the pages and make sure it's really adhered well to that tape. A little bit of glue coming through because I'm a messy crafter. And I'm just going to carefully fold that one over like that. Use my bone folder to get a nice crease there on that back page. And then I'm just going to make sure that each one of those is adhered really well and pressed down, and my pages fold nicely. And that's all our pages attached to the binding. And then all we need to do is attach the binding to the book, or to the cover. And that's that one. So there's our 6 pages all lined up on our binding. So now, if I bring back my book cover, what I do is, I'll just put the lid back on the glue stick because I don't think I'll use that again. I just lift up the pages, and then I am just trying to line up the pages with the spine. So for the top and the bottom, and also side to side, making sure that none of the pages go past either of these gaps that we've got in the spine. So I've just measured that out and then placed it on my book and then on my cover. I keep coming up with the wrong word today. And then when I was happy with where I thought it should be placed, I just grabbed my pencil and made little marks here and here on each side, so that once I've got the glue and the tape and whatever on there, it's really easy to just place it down. So now that we know where we want to put it, I'm going to apply tape and glue to this whole back section here, being careful not to get it along on our pages themselves. So I'll just grab my tape and I'm going to run around the edges with my tape. So I'll just turn it this way. Sorry Ben, if I'm making you feel a bit funny with the way I keep turning things around. I'm just going to line this up along the edge here. Stick that down and flip it around, and then do the same thing here. Just move the pages over to that side. And put some tape on here, like that. And then if I can find the edge of the tape, I will run it along this part here. Like that. And again on this side. And put a piece down on here. And I'm putting it right up to the edges because, you know, sometimes you don't want to put the glue right to the edges because you don't want it to seep out everywhere. But this way I can make sure that the edges are still well pressed down. So I'm going to go around and make sure that that is nicely adhered as best I can anyway. And then I'll just trim these edges off, which it's not really that important, but I will do it to make sure that it's sort of neat. And definitely down the bottom here. Get the tape off my scissors. I heard that Tim Holtz has those scissors, I can't remember what they're called, but that your tape doesn't stick to them. But I haven't seen them in a shop anywhere in Australia, although I'm sure I could buy them online. But I don't know about you, but I already have so many pairs of scissors. I don't know if I can justify buying another pair. I just have to keep cleaning gunk off. And I'm going to do the same here. So just making sure that none of my tape's poking out. And cut all those bits off. Right, so I'm pretty happy. I feel like there's a little bit sticking out here that I'm not so happy with. Maybe I should get some of those scissors. Just don't want this poking out here. I'm not sure that I'm doing a very good job. Okay, now you probably do a better job than that. I think I would do a better job than that if I wasn't doing it on camera. But because I'm doing it on camera, I'm really making a mess of it. Okay, that'll do. You get the idea, right? So we have tape all the way around there. No, I haven't put it down these side bits here, but you could certainly do that. Okay, so then I'm going to pull those off, pull the backing tape off, I should say. 1, 2, come on. I'm sure that I am making everything look more difficult than it needs to be. Come on, off you get. There we go, that one, the last piece. Okay, and then I'm going to put some wet glue on here as well. And come on up, wet glue. There we go. Because I want to make sure that this really binds itself well to the cover, because this is what's going to be holding everything in. Put a little bit of glue around the edges there. Okay, that's a lot of glue. Gone a little glue crazy. Bring my book back. Bring my cover back, and I'm going to stick it down. So I'm going to line up those little spots that we created already when we tried it out. Whoop, whoop. So if those two are lined up, then these two should be lined up. Then press it down all the way around. And then I'm going to go along and make sure that it's really firmly adhered itself. Some glue might come out, but hopefully we've trapped it in there. Oh, see, there's some. I'll get out my bit of towel. And pressing that down, making sure that it's stuck on. Now we're going to cover this up again, so we won't see any of this, which is good news if you're a grot like me. And I'm just going to make sure that it's stuck across here on every page as well. So I'm just going to run my bone folder down each one of those, make sure that it's really stuck down like this. And here. And here. Around here. The glue just came out the top there. We probably didn't need to use quite so much glue as I did, but I'm in mortal fear of things coming undone, so. Right, now we have these crease lines here from our spine, and so I'm just going to run my bone folder gently along that crease line there, like this. Not too hard because you don't want to put a hole in it, and then bend it up. And I'm going to do the same on the opposite side here as well. I'll just run my finger along there so I can sort of feel where that crease line is. And then just run my bone folder down there. Run it backwards and forwards a few times. Make sure it's stuck along here. And the same along the top here. And then just bend that over. And that is that. So then, that's our pages stuck into our cover. I'll just bend each of those back over, make sure that they lay down nice and flat, and I don't think that's too hard at all. And the pages really lay down nicely, and the pages themselves have this gusset here which sort of reinforces it because that's quite thick there with 2 thicknesses of cardstock. But it also means that when we build up our pieces, you know, our flips and pockets and things on here, it still has this piece here that really helps it to lay nice and flat. So that means that we hopefully don't get that sort of alligator or crocodile mouth on our mini albums. So, last one, fold it over and close her up. And there we go, there's our pages all stuck into our album. I haven't squashed that down very well there. Once the glue dries. So there it is, 6 pages in our cover. Didn't take too long. We didn't have to do very much measuring. We didn't have to do any cutting, well, just the little tabs off the edges. And the scoring was already done for us as well. And everything fits in really nicely. So that is the cover and spine and inserting our pages. We've already got ourselves a mini album. So now in the next few videos, I hope you'll join me while we use some of the other pieces to decorate the pages. If you're enjoying the series, I hope you stick around and watch some more. Subscribe to my channel so that you can see the videos as they come out. Check out my SVG files if you're interested on Etsy, and I hope that I will see you again soon. Thanks very much and see you soon. Bye.